Welcome to Singapore Property Talk Law.
Great to be here.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into something that's really shaking things up a bit. The Thomson View condominium on block sale.
That's the one, the big $810 million deal.
Exactly. A huge potential, possibly one of the biggest residential ones lately, and now it's hit a major roadblock. It's on hold.
Put on pause by the High Court, yeah.
We're going to unpack what happened in court and what it all means. And hey, if you want to keep up with Singapore property news like this, do make sure you like this deep dive and subscribe to the channel. You won't want to miss out.
Definitely worth following. So this halt came down on May 22nd, 2025.
Right. And it involved that consortium, UOL, SingLand Capital and Development. They had exercised the option back in November 2024. So what went wrong?
Well, the High Court judge, Justice Audrey Lim, she basically stopped it because the paperwork submitted by the Collective Sale Committee's lawyers, it was incomplete.
Incomplete. For an $810 million transaction.
Yeah, sounds surprising, I know. Apparently, the judge wasn't too pleased. Even gave the lawyers a bit of a dressing down, emphasizing the need for, proper due diligence.
Wow. Okay, so what was actually missing or wrong with the documents? What's the core issue here?
It really boils down to that crucial 80% owner consent threshold. You need owners representing at least 80% of the share value and strata area to agree to the sale.
And there's a time limit for that, right?
Exactly. It has to be achieved within a one-year window. For Thomson View, that clock started ticking effectively from January 8th, 2023 and ran until January 7th, 2024.
Okay, January 23 to January 24. Did they make it?
That's the $810 million question. Justice Lim found some, let's say, inconsistencies.
Inconsistencies how?
Well, for instance, the original collective sale agreement, the CSA, apparently mentioned 211 signatures, but then a supplementary agreement only had 206.
5 signatures difference.
Yep. And there were concerns that maybe some signatures were actually collected after that January 7th, 2024 cutoff date, maybe in October or November 2024.
So potentially outside the valid time frame. So what did the judge tell the lawyers to do now?
She's ordered them to submit a further affidavit that's a sworn statement, basically.
And what does this affidavit need to show?
It needs to clear things up. Explain the difference between those 2 signature counts, who are the 5 missing from the second agreement. And crucially, state exactly how many owners signed within that valid window, Jan 8/23 to Jan 7/24.
And not just the number of owners, right? Their stake.
Precisely. What proportion of the share value and the plot size did those on-time signatures represent? Did it actually hit the 80% mark?
Okay. And what about any signatures collected after January 7th, 2024?
For those, the affidavit needs to detail how many units they represent and their share value and plot size proportion too. Basically, a complete, transparent timeline.
So the court wants the full picture, time-stamped. What if it turns out they didn't hit the 80% within that first year?
That's the critical point. If they didn't meet the threshold in time, the judges told the lawyers they need to file written arguments explaining why the court should approve the sale anyway.
That sounds like a really difficult argument to make, trying to justify overlooking a fundamental legal requirement.
It certainly puts the pressure on the CSC's legal team.
Now, wasn't there some opposition to this sale earlier on from homeowners?
Yes, that's right. Initially, some dissenting owners filed objections with the Strata Titles Boards, the STB, that actually paused the sale back then because mediation failed.
How many were objecting?
There were 6 dissenting parties originally. But interestingly, 4 of them actually withdrew their objections just the day before the CSC went to the High Court in March.
Strange timing. What about the other 2?
The remaining 2 original objectors were actually present at this recent High Court hearing. But apparently they chose not to comment on why they objected in the first place.
It adds another layer to the whole thing. This deal, $810 million, it really is significant in the current market, isn't it?
Absolutely. It was potentially the largest residential collective sale since Chuan Park went for $890 million back in May 2023.
So the stakes are high, and this high court intervention just highlights how much scrutiny these massive deals are under.
It really does. Every I needs to be dotted, every T's crossed, especially with the legal timelines.
So what's the next step? When do we expect to hear more?
The case is scheduled for another mention in court on July 1st, 2025.
July 1st. Okay, so that's the date to watch for the next development based on that affidavit and any arguments.
Correct. We should get a clearer picture then.
Just for context, are these kinds of high court stop orders common for en bloc sales in Singapore?
It seems not, actually. According to an STB spokesperson, Thomson View is the only collective sale to have a stop order issued against it so far in 2025.
So this suggests the issues here are quite specific to this particular case's documentation or process.
It would appear so, yes. Not necessarily a sign of a broader trend, but perhaps a very specific procedural issue here.
Right. So to sum it up, the massive Thomson View en bloc sale is kind of hanging in the balance, all because of questions around the paperwork, the signatures, and hitting that crucial 80% consent within the legal time frame.
Exactly. The focus now is squarely on the CSC's response and what happens come July 1st.
It's a stark reminder about just how critical that due diligence phase is in these complex, high-value property transactions.
Absolutely. And it makes you, the listener, think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What does this pause, this scrutiny, mean for other big en bloc attempts down the line? Will we see even tighter checks on the process?
Good questions. Definitely something to ponder as we watch how this unfolds. Thanks for tuning in to Singapore Property Talk Law, and stay with us for updates on this story.